On today's episode of the Harrison Vapnek podcast, we're bringing on head coach at Marshall High School in Minnesota, Terry Bahlmann, the head coach of Trey Lance in his high school days. Going to come on to talk about Trey Lance, his days in high school, his days in North Dakota State, his future days in the NFL, that is, and then also talk a little bit of his younger brother, Bryce Lance, who's heading to play wide receiver at North Dakota State next fall. Tune in, great interview, talking Trey Lance, Coach Bahlmann. Going to start right now. With Terry Bahlmann, head coach at Marshall High School in Minnesota, is the all-time winningest coach for Marshall. Minnesota's this past year Section 2 AAA Football Coach of the Year. Terry, welcome on to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, so Terry, if you don't know, is the head coach at Marshall when quarterback Trey Lance. Trey Lance is currently one of the top quarterbacks projected in the 2021 draft class. So I'm going to bring me back to your first time coaching with Trey and your initial thoughts on him as both a player and a person.
Well, Trey, is, Marshall, we're a small town of about 14,000 people, so I get to know most of our kids when we started them out in youth, and Trey was no exception. We had him from fourth grade football on, and at that time we always thought he was going to be a running back. He was a little bit thicker young man there, and actually in 8th grade, his dad Carlton was one of our 8th grade coaches, and we needed a backup quarterback. We had a very good quarterback in that class, but we needed a backup quarterback, and Trey volunteered to be our backup quarterback, and obviously it worked out pretty well. And then as freshman, we got to see him throw the football, and he shared reps as a freshman. And then I think it was game 8 his sophomore year, our senior quarterback got hurt, and Trey stepped in and led us to a state tournament that year, and led us to 2 more state tournaments along the way.
So, go on.
Sure. And then as a person, Trey was a regional rep for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. He's a 4.0 student, and one of the top things about Trey is his work habits. He was always first one in the building, last one to leave, and it makes it pretty easy to coach when your best player is also your hardest worker.
So when was it that you mentioned in 8th grade he volunteered to be a backup? His dad told a story about that earlier this year. In 9th grade he was your backup and then eventually became the starter, split reps. When did you first realize when you saw him play quarterback that he could be something special?
Well, you don't know how special at the time. I remember telling my wife between 8th and 9th grade that Trey was going to be a special athlete. Now, I didn't know I was a quarterback. He was an outstanding defensive back for us, punt returner, kick returner type kid. And when we saw him spin the football, throw the football there, we knew he could throw it. And obviously he could run. And in high school, he was about 6'2", 185, 190 when most recruiting was going on. And obviously he filled out 6'4", 230. But we knew we had a special athlete. We didn't know, the quarterback level was going to take off. But first time he went in the game as a sophomore, you could just see it click and everything take off, just the way he managed the game. And we were actually behind when he came in a couple touchdowns, and he took us for a touchdown drive and had a game-tying drive going, and we turned it over. And things like that just make Trey focus more and work harder. And like I said, he led us to a state tournament that year and the next 2 after.
Yep, so as your quarterback at Marshall, Trey went 74-6 as a starter or as a quarterback, running a wing T offense, something you don't really see too much in the modern day football game. He never really played much in second half because you were up by so much. Was the wing T offense more of a personnel thing, or is that kind of what you wanted to run with Trey?
Oh, I've coached for 37 years, and we've done it, and we've run variations of it. With Trey, we did a lot more shotgun stuff, but at the time, we had a tailback that scored 108 career touchdowns. So we had some very good football teams in those 3 years of Trey's varsity experience. So there weren't a lot of opportunities in the second half to throw the football. So we knew he could throw for 2,500, maybe even 3,000 yards if we cut it loose. But the game flow never led to that.
Because, when you think of the wing T offense, you think back in the 1950s, 1960s, you don't really see that too much. Now you see a lot of spread offense, pistol, zone read, stuff like that. Does anyone ever try to persuade you to kind of, modernize your offense and try to elevate, or you like to stick with the wing T?
We're going to stick with the basics of it. If you look at most of the things the Chiefs and the 49ers and the Rams and those things do, they're off the wing tee. They just do it in the shotgun with every play looking the same and this kind of things. And we do a lot of different things. We probably run 7 or 8 different formations out of it, and we're probably in shotgun half the time. So we still use the basic concepts, but it's grown a little bit, and we do some different things.
So the summer before Trey's senior high school, he went to Chicago for an Elite 11 quarterback camp. Thought he would be selected as one of the finalists. Wasn't. What was his reaction, his kind of response after that, in your opinion?
Well, we were disappointed. We thought we went and played well and tested well, but Trey felt that he wasn't getting the same notoriety that the name type guys would get at that time. And I'm sure it's because we're coming from a school of 14, or a town of 14,000, a school of about 800 kids that he didn't have the name on. But we felt we as good as those, and that just helped motivate him even more to take it to the next level. And he was getting recruited by Big Ten school as a defensive back, and we did not want that at all. And we knew he wanted the football in his hands. So those kind of things, whenever something like that happens to Trey, it just motivates him even more and works harder.
So how hard is it? You mentioned you're from a town with between 12 and 14,000 people in Marshall, Minnesota, southwest Minnesota, for those who don't know. How hard is it to get coaches and recruiters and all that to kind of see your football team in a small town like that?
A few years back it was, but we've had we got a lineman, Blaze Andrews, playing for the Gophers. We got a Y.A. Blacks playing defensive end for Iowa. We got a player right now who's got offers from Iowa State, Nebraska, K-State, and we got 2 kids, South Dakota State, and 2 at NDSU right now. So, with Trey there and things, we've opened it up, and we get a lot of people come by and look at our kids now. So, at the time, it was probably surprising for people to believe that this kind of athlete was coming out of our school, but we felt he could compete with everyone. It was just getting people to take a look. I remember the night before he was going to sign, Boise State came in and was just too late to take a look. But he was comfortable with NDSU, and we liked their offense. And Coach Kleiman and Coach Messingham at the time were at North Dakota State, and they're from my hometown. We go way back, so I knew they would take care of him there, and I thought it was a really good fit for him.
So when Trey was at Marshall, 8th best player in all of Minnesota, the number 1 quarterback, but people did not think he could be a college quarterback. His dream was to play quarterback in Minnesota. He met with P.J. Fleck. Fleck wanted to try to convince him to play defensive back, play safety. That kind of brought him down. Iowa wanted him to play linebacker. He wasn't getting any Power 5 offers at the quarterback position. What was your response to big colleges doubting your quarterback's ability?
Well, they got to do what they think is right, and we knew what kind of person we had, and like I said, North Dakota State, it might be a little bit lower level than the Power Fives, but the football they play is top notch, obviously, with all the national championships and things. And they had Easton Stick at the time, and he was a great role model and leader, and Carson Wentz before. So we knew the opportunity was there for Trey to grow. Did we know he was going to, take off that fast? But he graduated as a 17-year-old. He's going to be 20 at the draft. So he was still young and maturing. And obviously in high school, he wasn't the 6'4", just under 230-pound kid you see today.
So you mentioned Trey's father, Carlton, earlier today. Talk about the impact that Carlton has had on Trey. You've worked with Carlton as a volunteer assistant at Marshall. Carlton played football at Southwest Minnesota State. Describe the relationship between Trey and Carlton.
Oh, it's a tremendous relationship. And Carlton, if you know Carlton, his work habits are extremely high, and it's carried over to both his boys. His son, Bryce, is a receiver for us, just broke all-time receiving records in every category for us this year, and he's going to go to North Dakota State next year. But Carlton's, very driven, and Trey's very driven, and they set their goals high and not afraid to do the work to get there. Like I said before about Trey, he was the first one in the building, last one to leave, and he's a student of the game, and that just carried over from his dad.
So he goes to North Dakota State in 2018. Sat there his first year behind Easton Stick, who would be drafted by the Los Angeles Chargers a couple months later. Competed for the starting job in 2019. Won that job, then became arguably the best player in all of college football in 2019. Arguably one of the greatest seasons in all of college football. 2,786 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, no picks, 67% completion. 1,100 rushing yards, 14 touchdowns, and North Dakota State went undefeated 16-0 and won the national championship. Were you surprised at all how great Trey was in his first season? From someone who was as close as you were.
Well, did we think the numbers were going to go that high? No, but we knew a little bit when he got in his first year, and I remember one of the plays he mishandled a snap from the center and picked it up. We teach our guys, to go where the play's designed to go, and Trey took it off for like a 40, 50-yard touchdown run. So people's eyes got open right then what kind of athlete he was going to be. But I think the kind of year he had, no one can predict, and especially the no interceptions. We gave him a little bit of a hard time about, that he throws the ball so hard that none of the defenders could catch it a couple times. But, it was just outstanding, and it was fun to watch him. And the pressure that got put on him as it went with 0 interceptions, he handled all extremely well.
Yeah, and so his first ever game at the quarterback at North Dakota State was in Minnesota at Target Field against Butler. Were you at this game?
I was not at that game, but we got a chance to watch it. And Trey was Trey. He came out and made some big plays and used the tight end well and then run when he had to.
Yeah, I was going to mention because that first game, no one had ever really seen this quarterback in North Dakota State, this quiet kid from Marshall, Minnesota. In the first drive of the game, there was a 50-yard bomb to a receiver down the field. They were up, I think, 15-0 within 5 minutes into that game. From the start, you watching that game, did you know it was going to be a special season for him?
Oh, I thought Trey was going to have a special team. Of course, he had great players around him, and I talked to the coaches a lot and talked to Trey a lot, and the quarterback coaches, Coach Messingham there, and as the OC, and they knew what they had, and then they were going to cut him loose as the season went, and everybody thought he was going to be a great runner, but we knew he could throw the football also.
Yep, he won the Jerry Rice Award, Walter Payton Award for he's the best players in the subdivision of college football. The decision to sit out in 2020, North Dakota State moved their season from the fall to the spring. They're going to be playing their game starting, I believe, next week. Did he talk about this with you at all?
We talked about it, what he wanted to do, and when they start talking about you as a first-round draft choice and you're locked in pretty well, obviously he's going to come out young, but people thought he was ready, and all the draft people thought he was ready. So it was a tough decision. North Dakota State was trying to get more games in the fall to go there, but they did a great job of trying to make it work for Trey, and obviously Trey got the one game in the fall where he got to play with his teammates once more. But it was a difficult decision, but when that opportunity to be a first-round draft choice comes by, I think you need to take it.
So let's talk about the game. He played Central Arkansas at home, kind of a one-game show for Trey Lance to kind of show off his abilities. 15 of 30, 149 passing yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick, 15 carries, 143 yards, 2 touchdowns. He missed a couple receivers. I think he didn't throw an interception all of 2019. He threw one early on, had a fumble. Did you see any rust of Trey in that game, and were you surprised by it?
Oh, I think they hadn't practiced as much, and the pressure of that one-game show was as probably much pressure as you're ever going to get, because a lot of people were calling it the Trey Lance game, and everybody was talking about it and no one there, and I got the opportunity to be there. And in first half, he missed a couple open guys, and we got that interception thing out of there. You knew it was going to happen sometime, yes. So it was good to get it out of the way. But get him settled down. They just ran him with the football, and he had about 150 yards rushing, so he settled in that way. In second half, he came out and played the way he's capable of. It was just a little bit of rust, maybe a little bit of nerve, trying to show it and show everybody that the hype was real and go from there. But he played well once he got going.
So let me transition that. Do you think Trey will have any rust when he starts in the pros? Because he's only having played one game in about maybe 19, 20 months before he plays his first game in the National Football League. Do you expect any rust when he first starts playing?
No, I don't think it will be rust. I'm hoping when they get going here, they'll get the OTAs and everything going. So he's been working out ever since, the one game at North Dakota State was open, and he's been in Atlanta, he's been in Tampa, he's been in Pensacola working out. So I texted back and forth with him again the other day, and he's ready to go. He's chopping at the bit. Okay,
so Trey's going to be 20 years old, as you mentioned, when his name is called on draft day. He'll be a few months over 21 when he makes his NFL debut. Should there be any concerns about a lack of experience after having just 1 year of college football under his belt?
Oh, I think that it's going to be faster again, just like we go to high school and college. Games going to be faster. He's played at a high level there, and he'll adjust. And like I said, when summer OTAs and stuff go, I think he'll get adjusted there. Obviously, at a 21-year-old, I don't know if you want to get thrown in there right away, but hopefully we're going to a place that he can learn and grow and be ready to go in a year or so.
So where do you think Trey's game can improve to the next level? We know he has a strong arm, great running ability, really good outside the pocket, very accurate, doesn't throw many interceptions, obviously. Where do you think he can improve once he gets to the National Football League?
Oh, I think he's going to try and improve every area. Your accuracy can never be too perfect. So I know that's something he's working on, and his reads and making the correct read all the time. He's as we said earlier, a student of the game, and he's going to work on that and show. But I think he'll just work on his total game, and if he's probably working on one point, it's always accuracy. Your ball placement is huge, so you can get yards after catch, and that's where Trey wants to be, to take care of his receivers and put it where they need to give him the chance to make plays.
Yeah, and you mentioned if he's in a good fit, it's going to work out well for him. There's a lot of teams that are projected in many mock drafts and rumors that could be linked to Trey, from the Atlanta Falcons, Carolina Panthers, Detroit Lions, Philadelphia Eagles, Denver Broncos, 49ers, New England Patriots, even your home state Minnesota Vikings. What teams do you think would be a good fit for Trey?
Oh, I think we'll be happy where all of them we go to right now. We're excited about all of them. So, we're not going to be that one where we want to say we don't want to go anywhere. So the opportunity to play in the NFL for a young man is a great opportunity, and Trey will appreciate wherever he goes.
Yep, and you've mentioned you've been coaching football for over 30 years. I'm guessing you've been watching football for your entire life. Who are some quarterbacks who have succeeded in the National Football League that you kind of compare Trey to? Someone that you watch and say, Trey reminds me of that quarterback.
Well, Trey's a runner, and of course we're going high level as a runner. He's not as fast as Lamar Jackson, but he's going to be a little bit bigger and stronger there. Remember, he's an all-state type linebacker safety, so he's got that mentality there, and the way he moves and makes plays. Mahomes is the best at it, but I think Trey has potential to be that kind of quarterback.
Yep, and let's talk about your football team at Marshall for a second. You guys had a good fall season. Do you guys have a spring season upcoming?
We do not have a spring season. We hoping to get started back in the summer and getting everybody and working and get to summer camps and kick her off next fall again.
So one of the players who was playing well for you this past fall is Trey Lance's younger brother, Bryce Lance, who was a senior for you this year. A 6'2" wide receiver, 30 catches, 631 yards, 8 touchdowns. You mentioned he broke nearly every school record in receiving. What are some similarities and differences between coaching Trey and Bryce? So, what are they? Are they the same person? Are they different? Both hard workers? Explain both of them to me.
Similarities are their work habits. They both want to put a lot of time into their game and not afraid of hard work and taking constructive criticism and getting better with it. Bryce is probably about 6'4", actually now about 185 coming in. So he's long and lean, a little bit leaner than Trey was there, but his growth is still coming. I think he's going to be a 6'4", 200-pound receiver for the falls up next fall. But we always asked him if he wanted to be a quarterback, and he wanted to be Bryce Lance the whole way, and he's done a great job of that. And Bryce's strengths are his quickness, again, his reaction to the football in the air. Besides the receiving records, he was a safety for us. He was an all-time career leader in interceptions and was a great punt returner, a holder for us, and kickoff returner. He did a lot of different things for us. But similarities are they both work extremely hard, and comparison-wise, as athletes, Bryce a little bit different, a little more lean, but he's a great athlete in his own right, and quickness-wise, Bryce is maybe a hair quicker, Trey maybe a little bit faster, but on the basketball court, both of them great basketball players. Bryce claims that he was a better basketball player than Trey. So
one more thing with Trey. You obviously have coached him for basically his whole youth. You know him probably better than any coach, other than maybe his ones in North Dakota State. If you were to give some advice or some words of wisdom to whatever coach or GM or offensive coordinator or quarterback's coach, passing game coordinator who selects Trey in this year's draft, what kind of words would you say to them?
To the coordinator, I would say, trust Trey, and he's going to want the ball at the end of the game, and work with him on making decisions. Trey's very football knowledgeable. He'll have a little good input on what works for him, and just trust him and enjoy the process.
Yep, and then finally, words of advice for Trey. I'm sure you speak to Trey often, but kind of just reveal what you say to him and your message for him as he enters the National Football League.
My message for Trey is the skills and the work habits will be there. Just block out the noise. Keep the hype out. You're going to have your critics, and you're going to have how great you are. As we tell our kids here, never too high, never too low, and just be Trey and do what's right all the time.
All right. Thank you, Coach Terry Bahlmann, for coming on the podcast, talking about Trey Lance. We wish Trey all the success in the future in the NFL. Hope he's going to be a great NFL quarterback, and that's what we expect. Terry, good luck to you as your team in your summer camps and then your fall season coming up before we know it.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Big thank you for Coach Terry Bahlmann for coming on, talking all things Trey Lance, from his high school days to his college to what he thinks he's going to do in the National Football League. We're so excited to see what Trey is going to do at the next level. As a big fan of Trey Lance, I am. Coming up next on the Harrison Vapnek podcast, we're going to have Kyle Mann, Hoops video for The Ringer. Going to talk NBA trade deadline storylines for the first half of the year. Some LeBron stuff, some Luka Doncic, a lot more. So stay tuned for that. A really good interview with Kyle Mann coming up in the next few days. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you next time on the Harrison Vapnek podcast. See ya.